Está con nosotros Natalia Pla.
Natalia Pla with us at this moment.
Natalia es licenciada y
She
doctora
is a
en
master of
filosofía
doctor
por la
in
Universidad de
philosophy
Barcelona.
from the University of Barcelona.
Comenzó a estudiar filosofía
She
por
began
cierto sentido
her
práctico,
philosophy in the practical
dado
meaning.
que formaba parte de su
She is
psicología
forming
cuestionarse
a part of
y
the
reflexionar
psychology,
sobre lo que pasaba.
questioning and
También
reflecting
tiene
what is
formación
happening.
musical
She has
titulada en
she
piano
is a
y formación
musician
teológica.
and also theologian.
Abarca mucho. Ella se siente cómoda diciendo
She
que
is
lo
very
suyo es
comfortable with
la
her.
filosofía de
What
delantal,
is hers is philosophy
nutrir a las personas a
to
través de la
nurture the
reflexión.
people through reflection.
Habitualmente, Natalia trabaja en el
At
ámbito de
present,
la
she is working
formación
in the
no regular,
formation, not regular,
especialmente para
especially
colectivos profesionales
professionals
vinculados a la atención de la
linked
persona,
to
así
attentive
como
to the
para
people
congregaciones
and
religiosas.
for the religious congregations.
Ofrece cursos,
She offers
conferencias y
courses,
retiros.
conferences, and retreats.
Campos de trabajo son asesoría,
She is an assessor, philosophical accompaniment, and formation.
urge lo cotidiano. Belleza
Beauty,
dice ella, son dos claves en las que se desarrolla y sostiene su ser. El gusto por la palabra,
liking for the word of God is also is necessity. Poetry and mysticism is a particular combination of beauty, truth, and experience. She understands life is to be shared and assumes always with movements, circle, responsibility with respect to the other as a sign of humanity. Certainly, she writes that the philosophers cannot be confused with being, they have to recover the question for others. Natalia, you have a beautiful theme, the beauty of every day, the beauty of little things. The title of our beauty of every day. Let us listen. We'll share the screen. Thank you for the beautiful presentation. I have a beautiful theme. When I saw the theme, a mother irons her son's shirt for a job interview. This is the title and starts by a poem by David Jo, Professor Emerita for Autonomous University of Barcelona, poet and essayist, a poem with a beauty which is both moving and which catches you unaware. Surely it catches unaware, certainly because it stirs up resonances and vibrations within. When I received the invitation to take part in this event and was given the theme, I felt that I could not refuse it because it vibrated with the truth, with a conviction which is very deep-rooted in my life. Trying to thresh out the idea because that way it is, I ended up in childhood, which is seen at a distance. I believe I was being sustained and developed within with music and reading. I remember washing and changing the clothes on dolls' regimental fashion once a year because I never managed to find time to play with them any other time. Thus, they never became my dolls. Just as I remember saving up, I have to look for classical words. Just as I remember saving up the small amounts of pocket money given by relatives to buy myself a new book, which I would devour the same day and which I didn't mind ever rereading. I can also see the child I was. I saw the Saint Teresa I can also see the child I was sitting at the piano with a regularity which had more to do with channeling sensitivity than with the response to academic demands. And perhaps at this very moment, you are drawing the conclusion that this is what justifies my link with the theme. Of course, they say, this close association with the beauty of art laid the foundations for the conviction which she has just shared with us. Well, in fact, I don't think that it was actually like that. I suppose that in one way or another, you have visualized the scenes that I have been describing to you. Now let me put them into context. My piano stood in the hall of a house, home up to 7 people, and it was placed strategically so that the front door opened along one side without touching it. When I played, working at deciphering Bach, my older brothers and sisters were listening to heavy metal on the other side of the partition. And of course, it was given that I would answer the doorbell no matter where I was in the music. My father, who belonged to the generation of men who'd never express their feelings, allowed me to play the piano. Sometimes he would appear in the doorway to the passage with this glass of beer, cigarette and ashtray, sitting down on the ground behind me, and not for many people, and would say to me, "Child, play, go on." And I, who had no special rapport with Beethoven, used to play for Elisa, for him. This became our special secret. It was our little heaven of daily beauty. And although he never uttered a word to me, I expect it was one of the months which compensated many days spent away from home as a traveling salesman before the department stores. Shared this picture from bygone days in the style of martingale, but from the period of Cuéntame cómo pasó. I spared for you from the description of reading corner, because my impression of the beauty of small things doesn't come from hours of study and reflection, but from a lived experience to which I was later able to give a conceptual framework. Because my bandwidth comes, in any case, as much from art as from handicrafted objects, which are certainly more pertinent to what I'm going to unravel. There is no need to compare or contrast both areas. Everything has a place. The crucial thing about beauty in its every expression is that it is one of certitude. You arrive at a particular moment, which in turn becomes an infruitable criterion for a way of life. So I am immensely grateful to those in charge of the lectureship for having entrusted this particular contribution to me. And my understanding of it is that my exposition should not consist of a primarily theoretical contribution, but rather an existential one. It is experience in living rather than conceptualization, which brings one to properly appreciate the value of the small. Because honestly, I don't think that with just this experience, I would have managed to talk to you about this subject. In analyzing it, I can see that what embedded in me, the appreciation of beauty of the everyday, was the development of a contemplative attitude and the sense of transcendence. And I have to say that I doubt whether I would have arrived at an appreciation of beauty in the everyday without something of both elements. From these two aspects, from contemplation and the unveiling of the sense of transcendence, I found myself again these facts and became aware of the real substance they had from this point. this point, I could nurture this type of beauty for which there is a place in my life. So allow me to invite you, this same position, to go over the sacraments in your daily life as an exercise. A mother irons her son's shirt for a job interview. We have already heard today, it is certainly true that beauty, the experience of beauty, reveals the sense of transcendence. But it is no less certain that we don't reach the stage of recognizing beauty in little things without the sense of transcendence, which brings us to an intuition that the extraordinary is hidden in the ordinary. I will come back to this. Teaching, to tell the truth, I must also say that when I was getting deeper into the preparation of this book, I had intuition took me to a passage in the Gospel, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. When the rich man brings Abraham to send Lazarus to warn his brothers so that they do not end up in suffering the torments of the kingdom of death. To which Abraham replies that they have to already have Moses and the prophets to warn them. And finally, if they do not listen to them, then neither will they listen to anyone else, even if he were to raise a dead man. I have a peace of mind, sure that you are more brothers and sisters of Lazarus than of the rich man, so I'm sure that you have been forwarded. Nonetheless, reflecting on the missionary dimension of these gatherings, which aim to bring some good to the world, each time that I visualized myself defending the importance of the beauty of small things, I seemed to hear something along the lines of, it won't be so easy for us to be heard. And it is not because our generation doesn't have its own Moses and prophets. There are voices which place great value on beauty and the vital importance of small things. Mystics and wise people from all traditions agree about that, what they have to tell us about the relevance and soundness of this. This is illustrated by the following account, which often said to the Arabic origin, though some point of a version of Chinese proverb. You will certainly remember it. A beggar receives 2 coins, and when he is asked as to what he has done with them, he explains, with one he has bought bread, but which he can live, and with the other he has bought rose as to have a reason to live. So we should not be surprised that the preaching about the goodness of every day, of the small, is not acclaimed by those who live in opulence ostentation. It is not embraced by those who live dependent on image, appearances and recognition. Those who believe that they have all the answers and control in life, those who don't stop have an effect. Or surprising, as he was, cannot be done without a sense of transcendent. Imagen de apariencia del occidente. Appreciating the beauty of every day cannot be done without a sense of transcendence, because only then one can become accustomed to opening the door to the possibility that there is something beyond, more within and more.
Apreciar la belleza de lo cotidiano no se hace sin sentido de trascendencia ni capacidad contemplativa, sin un dejarse tocar, sin receptividad, sin desapego de expectativas o idealizaciones. De ahí que la didáctica oportuna pase por la introducción a la vida contemplativa, como nos hablaban hace un momento desde otra perspectiva, y por el cultivo consciente de no tener la última palabra ni la última mirada sobre nada. Solo así se acostumbra uno a abrir la puerta a la posibilidad de que algo más allá.
There is something beyond, more within and more. The experience that I have had counseling people at critical times in their lives is very learned to me as a confirmation. At times of crisis, in one's way of life, to open up to the perspective of every day, beauty carries a charge which foments a great restorative, nourishing capacity, no less. I will also come back to this. But let us continue going over what the perspective of beauty in the everyday little things brings to our lives. Although it might seem a bit of shock following on from the previous points to connect beauty with the story of Lazarus, I would now like to point out that the expression of beauty brings justice. If we follow the descriptive summary of Marcel Sandel, one of the theoreticians of contemporary justice, involves deciding how commodities we deem to be valuable should be distributed. Depending on the theory, therefore, we find different conceptions of justice and especially different ethical principles to direct the said distribution. It is worth pointing out that the subtext to all this is always an anthropological concept, a consideration of what it means to be human, the appropriate form of life for the person, what constitutes one's relationship with others, the means transcendence. I am introducing this because in my understanding, the dimension of beauty which we are addressing give us something precious, in fact very precious, in a way which is available to everyone. I think that it is essential perspective which gives back no small hope to the lives of many people. A week back, I read an interview with a literary author. When justifying the protagonist's change of life in his novel, he stated that two things which save a person are love and art. In fact, we know of projects related to the realm of prisons and rehabilitation, which center on the development of artistic experience. A prisoner in Brazil who took part in a prison project without bars asked if he did not feel a temptation to escape, replied, "No one runs away from love." Every gesture which comes from true compassion is gifted with a profound beauty which has an effect, cries out to us and moves us. Joseph M. Rovira Belleza, theologian, wrote when talking about aesthetic space of contemplation as one of the non-confessional areas of access to God, what is beautiful reveals something profound and mysterious given to us in a visible form. The benevolent act of mercy which forgives is also beautiful. A few years ago, the story of Tim Guenard, Stronger Than Hate, became famous, explaining how a glance can change your life. How a glance can change your life. All is completely related with the beauty of every day. With the recognition of the transcendence, there is in every gesture which brings from authenticity, from the conviction of we are in relation to each other, therefore actively embracing an anthropological conception and a consciously awakened ethical life. The words of Pope Francis a few months ago for the inauguration of the new exhibition, space of the Vatican Apostolic Library, are intriguing. Taking the adjective kalos, which appears in St. John's Gospel, he points out that it is used exclusively to refer to Jesus and his mission. And emphasized that the more apt translation of the Christological appellation, "I am the Good Shepherd," would in reality, I I am the handsome shepherd. The Pope says that, of course, it is certain that he is a good shepherd, but that he is also handsome. As I was saying to you, it is intriguing to see it in this context. And there is an ugly aspect. It warns us that something we miss. Let us take up where we left off. We are able to live without luxuries. We can live without certain means. We can adopt too many things, much more than we can imagine. But a life without a modicum of beauty, in my understanding, is a little less than unlivable, intolerable, a kind of existential deceit, a profoundly dehumanizing situation. On the other hand, a precarious life which is regaled with something beautiful, it is, in a certain way, rescued from meaningless and desperation. It is something which every human being has the right to experience. Remarkable is the account of a person who, trapped in the Nazi concentration camps, maintained the strength to live by caring for a tiny plant which had sprung up in a corner of the barracks. This is why we have to bring to the fore and value this discreet beauty, which of course is within everyone's grasp. Notice how I consider this aspect to be valuable. Thus we should be dedicating some time during this year's lectureship to this topic is more than justified. There would be no need of arguments in defense. What is more? I think it would be worthwhile to encourage people to come back from the dead to tell about their experience to others. Precisely for its salvic importance, I would ask come back to warn, envy, and who wanted to listen to me, not to understand this type of beauty, for it is not to pass be neglected, unnoticed in their lives, because I firmly believe that the experience of beauty changes one's outlook on life, strengthening and making one's life better, much better. As Pope Francis said in the same inauguration, beauty is not the fleeting illusion of an appearance or an ornament. It springs instead from the root of goodness, truth and justice, which are its synonyms. But we should not neglect to think and speak of beauty, because the human heart does not only need bread, it does not only need what guarantees its immediate survival, it also needs culture, that which touches the soul, which brings the human being closer to her profound dignity. As you can see, these words are fully in harmony with what I was telling you about a few moments ago. Access to art, unfortunately, is not as universal as it should be. Opening the door to knowledge and the enjoyment of certain works is a form of democratization and is therefore just. But beauty is not only present in art. The sun rising and setting unanimously, to give an obvious example, is a consolation and represents a compensatory opportunity. I wouldn't wish to appear to be naive. I do know that it is not the same to do it in privileged circles, protected from noise or dirt, than doing it in a rubbish dump or in a ghetto. But ultimately, the sun, the moon, heaven, there beyond, far away, are independent of the immediate environment. And I sincerely believe that in raising one's gaze to them, following the same vein, can be a way of recuperating the belief that life is not just about what we have here and now. It is a stimulus to remind us that the good is also for us and to make us fight for it, savoring the little that is possible maybe at this moment in time, although there may be obstacles. Whilst life continues and we cannot radically change one's circumstances, yet one can introduce a spark of something into it which transcends it, so that one goes beyond the here and now, and we are reminded of the truth of the life to which we were originally invited. If, as Pope Francis points out, beauty is not the fleeting illusion of an appearance or an ornament, but something, I would venture to say, a much more ontological, something which forms part of our being, our DNA, which emerges from within, inasmuch as it is. Thus, the contemplative attitude which stops before the person to listen to what his presence is saying is vital if one wants to discover the intrinsic beauty enshrined in every reality, whether being or circumstance. Sometimes I have the impression that just Emilio spoke of us harmonize with God. The extraordinary, because the ordinary life should be in harmony with this. Sometimes I have the impression that there are beauty thieves in our society, although in a different way from those in the novel by Pascal Bruckner, thieves that don't abduct beautiful young girls, but beautiful realities, which, as they were never known, start to wither away little by little. There is a beauty presence in life which can be lost because we do not bring it to the light, because we do not bear witness to it, because we do not appreciate it, because we have not educated our palates. And this too is unjust. In this case, because there is no justice, in this case, we do not disseminate is how to identify in which really has value. We are fully involved in distangling something more of this beauty in our daily lives. Beauty in the everyday. Speaking about the beauty of daily life is not the same as speaking about beauty in daily life. That we endow daily life with beauty is not exactly the same as saying that daily life is beautiful. Of course, the two things are not mutually exclusive, and in fact, both aspects nourish each other. But we already noted earlier that the ordinary has something which can pass by unnoticed if we give in to the force of attraction of the extraordinary. In reality, everything has its place. In reality, both dimensions are necessary. One has both, just as we did at the beginning. I cannot approach this in a thoughtful manner without first finding endorsement through my own experience. In this case, I have recourse to something which one of the people I look after in the office regaled me with, because it seems to be. I working on a court case for a couple's breakup and taking into account the emergence of new relationships, the person I am accompanying told me that she had put a brake on a burgeoning new relationship. The significance became apparent when she told me the circumstances in which she had realized that it was not a good time, nor did she feel ready for it. So one Saturday evening, they were sitting together on the sofa, watching a film. Analyzing the situation, we agreed that, in fact, it is much easier and there is less involvement to go to bed with someone than to sit on the sofa at home and watch a movie on a Saturday evening. It is at odd, isn't it? But it is so true and overwhelming, because today, with regards to the contemporary social mores, the second scenario says so much more about relationship than the first. What defines a real bond is the daily, every day. It suddenly reveals itself as a crucial, radical burden. Daily life, when lived well, is a haven to intimacy, complicity, closeness, warmth, which carries with it implicitly mutual knowledge, shared life. At its heart, this is what astonishes most when it is lost, when one has known it, when one has tasted it, when one knows how precious it is. One Saturday evening, sitting on the bed, watching the TV, talking about daily life is doing it to a rhythm which sustains you and carries you. Relief from the burden of always being at the beginning, because it allows you to rest, resting in what it already is, in what it is being. We could in some way say that the ordinary gives us roots which allows us to grow and unfurl in new directions, but without losing our footing. You tell me that yes, the ordinary is fine, but that we also need some liveliness, some adrenaline, some novelty, and I will reply that certainly that is so. I will certainly that is so, and also we need it. The thing is, as I warned at the beginning of this section, a greater value is placed on the extraordinary than on the ordinary. That is why we have to alter our perspective of both aspects without confronting them. From my perspective, the ordinary gives consistency and a harnessing to the extraordinary. Without a foundation in the ordinary, the extraordinary runs the risk of being, that in Catalan we call foc de sals, a flash in the pan, a fire of shavings, more appearance and less duration. A flash in the pan gives us no heat, no embers. You can't cook with it, nor will it feed you. When we speak of beauty, it is important to have point of reference. True beauty, whether ordinary or extraordinary, is not a fire with these characteristics, rather one which heats and allows for nourishment. Of course, not everything which is extraordinary is a flash in the pan, nor does it have to be tainted with frivolity or banality. The reference as to how to distinguish its quality is given to us by St. Thomas, when he points out, better to illuminate than merely to shine. This is a society which to a large extent has succumbed to the seduction of appearances, personalities, life reduced to a screen, all of them realities which not only do not illuminate, but whose way of shining in reality blinds, which implies losing the orienting ability which the shine gives out. As the dictionary defines, to blind as to obfuscate and to confuse sight with an excess of light. Moreover, in another context, it has been noted that planned excess of luxury produces a great impression. The beauty of everyday life illuminates, but rarely shines, or it does so in a very discreet way, so that it would be very difficult for it to dazzle us. This is not what happens with the beauty of the extraordinary, which certainly has to grapple with this temptation. If the extraordinary loses its benchmark with reference to reality, which the ordinary is able to maintain, if one plays with a planned excess of luxury, it can easily dazzle and so obfuscate and confuse. This is what makes such dazzling beauty fascinating and incites people to idolatry. In contrast, it will never have, on the other hand, an iconic purpose. That is to say, it will never have the potential to let anything pass through, to transcend to something more profound, to invite us to go beyond, whereas contact with everyday beauty produces this opening into the mystical when the lethargy and monotony is broken, allowing us to perceive the immensity of what we have, of what we experience, of what we are. We become aware then of the life-giving roots which are being afforded us. Sometimes extraordinary resides in the ordinary. Placing ourselves here brings us to re-encounter with the filtered light which the gentle voice which speaks, the intimacy which embraces. In the words of Joseph, like life's music. This is what makes me state. Beauty is not small, because beauty is one of those qualities which, strictly speaking, cannot be measured, and for this reason it is also bad taste to compare. That is better not to do so. What is beautiful, just that and not. And what gives it scale is the effect it has in our lives. This is where we suddenly become aware of the extraordinary. It is also there in what we call small things, like the many of those of us who are in this room who have sung along with Serrat. Now that we are with him, and also Antonio Orozco sang these words. We need a night of flannel sheets, unattractive pajamas and socks on the floor. From the soft to a cold, treacherous shower, a massage, cream, a drink and candles. As you can see, we realize how important the small things were, which at the right moment were so attractive in their simplicity, which were so attractive in their splendidity. We have heard this so often during the pandemic, as George Ewell tells us with the words of his hairdresser, we were happy and we did not know it. Correct reading of reality should be made, especially with regard to the expectation which we have. It is something which should be attuned in the consolidation of relationships of whatever nature. By way of an example, we have been laughing a lot with one of the young women who are married recently, who are having a face-to-face challenging crisis, and recognize that imaginary world which feeds Disney and Hollywood was exercising a powerful influence. We learned to laugh together each time that she imagined that she had found some glitz and fireworks. Able to understand, but we understood that this is a good as some fireworks were good as extraordinary, but they are not reference in the ordinary. She recognized that it took an effort on her part to integrate the concept of the beauty of small things. Look at
y me dijo,
And she said to me,
mira lo que me pasó
look
anoche.
at what happened to me the other day.
Después de un tiempo
After
de no
some
estar
time of not
juntos,
being together,
mi marido
my husband said
me
to me,
dijo, no
you
sabes
can't
qué
imagine
ganas tengo
how much I want
de
to get a
prepararte un
lunch
regalo
box
para esa noche.
ready for you to take to work.
Y a mí,
And it seemed to me
y esta joven, me
to
pareció
be the
la
more,
declaración de amor más hermosa del mundo.
and it seemed to
Las
me
dos
the
nos
most
emocionamos.
beautiful embellishment of our
Y
love
desde
in the world.
entonces,
We were
de
both
vez en
very
cuando,
emotional, and
solo
from that
recordamos
moment, from time to
que el
time,
amor
we just had to recall
vamos de etapas,
love has
pero
more to
ciertamente
do with the lunch boxes than with
el
glates.
amor,
Love,
el sostenimiento
maintaining
de la vida,
life,
tiene
has
más
more
que
to
ver
do
con
with
la
the
luz
fire in the
interior
heart,
que hay que mantener
which has to
encendida
be
para que el
kept
calor
lit
llegue,
so that the kettle boils than with fireworks,
aunque de vez en
although
cuando
they go
sucede
down
ruido,
well from time to time.
porque procede
Because a
hacer un breve
slight
excurso
discretion
para
is
señalar
needed here to
una
point out
errónea
erroneous
consideración
consideration
de que lo
that the
bello,
beautiful,
lo
pleasurable
placentero,
are
son
dispensable,
prescindibles, son opcionales, secundarios
optional,
e incluso
secondary, and
desde
even
nuestras
from a Puritan
personalidades
perspective,
inconvenientes.
inconvenient. From an
Visto
anthropological
antropológica y
and theological
teológicamente,
standpoint,
es una
it is an
errónea
erroneous
referencia
reference
que ha visto a
which has been
menudo
broadened
extenderse con
extensively,
intención,
bring
llevando
real
a auténticas
deformation to the
deformaciones en la
understanding of
comprensión de la
virtue
virtud y
and
de la santidad
sanctity in
en
the
la
shaping of
configuración de la
shared
vida
lives.
compartida. Por
On the
otra
other
parte,
hand,
en
in
su
the right
justa
measure and
forma,
form,
en su justa
beauty,
forma, la belleza y el
beauty and
placer
pleasure
contribuyen
contribute
al
to the
bien
common
y
good and
bienestar de la
well-being of the
persona,
person, and they
implican un
imply
recto
a true
aprecio por la
appreciation
integridad
of the
del ser
integrity of
humano,
the human
por
being,
tanto también
therefore
de su
also of his corporeality,
su
his sensuality,
y su expresión
expression
en
in different
distintos grados,
spheres,
como anoche
as we
experimentamos en la
experienced in
danza.
the dance last night.
Al
By
confundir la
confusing
belleza con
beauty
el
with
lujo,
luxury,
se
we
produce
have a
una
distorted
distorsión
view
que es
which can be
perfectamente
perfectly easily
reconducible.
reversed.
La
A
comida
meal
puede
can
ser
be simple
sencilla, pero
but
bien
well
preparada
prepared and
y bien
presented.
presentada. A lo mejor
Maybe
no
we can't
podemos
nor
ni
do, we
necesitamos
need
tener
to
unos
have a
centros florales
centerpiece of
exóticos
exotic
o tan
flowers,
bonitos como este que
but
nos
we
muestra
can
en la sala, pero
we can
podemos
decorate
adornar
the
la casa
house
con
with
hojas y
leaves
flores
and
que hagan
flowers
roscamino,
from the hedgerows
generar
in
un
order to
ambiente
create a
agradable
pleasant
con un
atmosphere
poco de
with
música y
well-chosen music,
situacional,
which
favorece
relaxes
y
and
predispone al
predisposes for
encuentro.
an encounter.
En los
In
retiros
solitary retreats,
generosos que a veces
which
se han
sometimes have been
sobrecargado de
overly
falsedad,
frugal,
la belleza en
beauty in
los
the
detalles
details
tiene
can
una
be
carga de
enormously
vitalidad
powerful
enorme y
and
conecta
connects
con
us
la
with
rica
the rich
diversidad de la
diversity of
creación.
creation.
Un
A
paseo
walk
por el
through the
campo en cualquier
countryside
época
at
del
any
año
time of year
permite percibir una
allows us
belleza
to
de
pursue
detalles que cuando
beauty
en
in
retiro
detail,
estamos
which
queriendo
on
sintonizar
retreat,
con el
when we
Creador,
want to attune to the
deberíamos
Creator,
saber
we
incorporar
have to know
la
how to
sobriedad,
bring things
la
together.
austeridad,
Simplicity,
no
austerity are
obstante
not
unidas con la belleza
inconsistent
natural,
with natural
sino como
beauty,
un lujo,
but with
con lo
luxury,
pomposo, con lo
ostentation, and
artificioso.
artificiality.
Lo describe Ángela
Angel
Gabilondo de una manera
Gabilondo describes
interpretable.
this in a
Siempre me
challenge.
deslumbró
Your
tu elegante
elegant
sencillez,
simplicity has
pero
always
ahora sé
dazzled me.
que se
But now
alimenta
I
de
know
una
that it is
austeridad
nourished
que
by an
no es
austerity which is
conformismo,
not
sino sana
conformism,
ambición,
but healthy
para
ambition,
no
that of
entregar la
not
vida
giving one's
digamos
life over,
así,
let us
a
say, to
exuberantes
rampant
sentidos.
foolery.
No
But
solo
not
por
just
compras,
foolhardy things,
sino
but
por
excess
excesivas.
too.
La austeridad,
Austerity
dice
is not
Gabilondo, no es
ostentatious,
ostentosa,
not even by
ni
default.
siquiera por
I
defecto.
I
En una,
insist in a
insisto, recta
correct
concepción de la
anthropological
belleza,
conception of
se
man.
integran armónicamente lo
The necessary
necesario
for
para la
survival
subsistencia, el pan,
is integrated
y la
harmoniously with the
abundancia.
necessary for living, the rose.
Bien,
Well,
pues explicitado
now that has
esto,
been
dejo el
explained,
esbozo para
I will
retomar
take up the main
afirmando
thread
que
of
de hecho
reforming. In
intuyo
fact, my
que el
intuition is
aprecio
that
correcto y
the right
dimensionado de los fuegos
scaled
artificiales
appreciation
durante
of
una comida
fireworks or glades
solo puede
can only be
darse
given
desde
from
una
an experience
experiencia que
which
valora
gives
lo
value
sencillo.
to the simple.
Me hace
It
recordar la
reminds me of the
advertencia
gospel warning
solo
that
quien sabe
only
servir en
someone who
algo
knows
pequeño
how to be faithful
recibe
in
lo
little
grande.
things will
Tal
receive
vez
a
porque
greater
si
one.
no, una
Perhaps
postura algo
because
ensoberbecida
if this is not
permite no
so,
ser
an
capaz de valorar
attitude
nada
which is made proud cannot in the end find satisfaction and value in anything. And here there is something of the vortens of the resonances, which are so Theresian, such as humility. Humility, walking in truth, is beautiful. And beauty, far from coming anywhere close to vanity, reveals and offers itself in humility, revealing and making an offering of what it is. During periods of illness, we yearn for daily life as a sign of good health. We want to recuperate little things like being able to wash oneself on one's own. During lockdown, quarantine, we naturally missed the extraordinary things less. But we also discovered that we were yearning to recover those little things which, without realizing it, sustained our routine. How many friendly hugs we were not able to have during this period of social distancing. How much did we miss going out in the sunshine and the fresh air for a simple walk through our neighborhood. Small is beautiful. Yes, I can say it, but it's also the title of a book which, according to some specialized sources, is among the top 100 most influential publications since Second World War. It is not a book of philosophy or of aesthetics, nor it is a book on spirituality. The subtitle, Study of Economics as if People Mattered. The subtitle, it is a book of German economist Ernst Friedrich Schumacher, emphasizes in the epilogue the need for the materialistic philosophy to take second place to aspirations such as justice, harmony, beauty, and health. It is not difficult to deduce that it is a proposal which questions consumerism and a certain understanding of well-being, examining the role of paper and use of technology, use of natural resources. In other words, easy questions about reorienting, as you can say, forgive the irony. It is just when we don't need everything. What is more, we need to learn to select what truly interests us. Apply to well-being. An integral approach is important for us, not self-centered desires. Some time ago, I read an interview with Kyle Chaika, youth of 33, old journalist on technology and culture from the magazine The New Yorker, who has published a book, Longing for Less. He defines our period by the abundance of content on offer and the lack of meaning when consuming it. Art, he says, is within our grasp, but we don't manage a deep relationship with it in the way you used to. And in the face of disorderly, excessive digital consumption, which takes on concrete form with zapping, he is forceful in his reaction to appreciate and to be attentive to what is a part of life, because I have made a conscious decision about it over the years, and I'm going to concentrate only on that in order to consciously enjoy it. In my opinion, we need to be discerning about what interests us and what doesn't, because contemporary logic incites us into never feeling satisfied either in terms of ambition or satisfaction. Thus, I am advocating for an exercise in discernment which begins with a listening to oneself, to our interior emotions, which produce certain behaviors. Hence, we must work out what interests us or not, according to what effect it has on us. Thus, first, it will make us let go of what that, as we were saying earlier, produces a fleeting effect which doesn't nourish us or even upsets us, takes us out of ourselves. And in second place, it will encourage us to educate ourselves, to savor and to establish a deep relationship with those little things which, when lost, will end up in the words of a song which we will sing as a form of lament. To educating ourselves in small is beautiful. Therefore, an exercise in letting go and in asceticism, which will be good for all the possible circumstances in life, which can call for us to make do with very little. Old age, which implicitly affects us all in one way or another, is a stage characterized by having to accept the loss of competence, a process which is not at all welcome. Thus, when the moment comes, it will help us a great deal to have learned to detect and to savor the small and live with it. How good this simple the statement of Carmen Martin Gates sounds. To me, living is not being in a hurry, contemplating things, listening to other people's problems, being curious and being compassionate, not telling lies, sharing a glass of wine and a piece of bread with the living, remembering with pride the lesson of the dead. Paradise in bad company can become a living hell, while the most humble settlement in the world in good company takes us interiorly to heaven. And now I am going to approach the final section of this contribution, beauty in our lives every day. As it won't have escaped you, the title is intended to conjure up the prayer we all hold within, a prayer which asks for our daily bread. Because having reached this point, you would agree that the beauty which we associate with a rose in its day-to-day variety also takes on the nurturing function of bread. Each time we incorporate something beautiful into our daily lives, each time we become aware of the beauty there is in small things, I feel that we are raising up a type of prayer, one of praise, offering, or supplication. Beauty anoints the humdrum and endows it with the transcendence. And at this moment, I can introduce the verb which accords with the beauty of every day, the verb to anoint, which implies us as much that it is sensorial as spiritual. The act of anointing demands exercising just the right pressure. If you use too little, you besmear. If too much, the ointment may splatter and even damage the fabric. Beauty which besmears or is excessive is not the beauty which anoints. It is always relative to the need, to the context, to the being, to the context, to the being. In the same way, the gesture of anointing is slow. It has a specific rhythm, the same as with the intensity. When a person is anointed as a way of healing, caring, or elevating dryness, it is not reduced to a quick gesture rather than action, which is not a quick fix, but which goes slowly, which is related to attentiveness and sacrality. Thus, I think that to anoint is the verb which goes best with the concept of everyday beauty. By anointing daily life, fertile beauty encourages, consoles, moves, stirs, nurtures, plunges us into reality, moves us towards transcendence. Thus, anointing, as I was saying to you, harbors a prayer and in the specifically painful situations. When there is suffering, on the other hand, gives a structure to those radical joy and happiness. When we have to confront the realities of illness and death, of suffering, the yearning to make something pretty brings the full directive power of beauty so that it can become the impetus of freedom and action. In such situations, in fact, in all situations, one has to be determined to do something which achieves something which exudes beauty and with that truth, common good and goodness. Not that with this we will change reality. I don't want to deceive you or give you false illusions, but to move us, bestowing reality with meaning, which makes it possible to live as a human being. It reminds me of the following words said by Gabilondo. The greatness of our freedom consists in that, despite being insignificant, lacking in meaning or significance, we are capable of giving meaning to things. What is more in reality? And this happens with Eros. In love, there are things which only one as if one gives. Things which are the salt which makes life. I am convinced that beauty is one of those things in life. And today, here, I suggest to you that you take a look at life, your life, with the possibility of anointing it with beauty. A mother irons her son's shirt for a job's interview. Do you remember David Joe's poem? His future no longer depends on me, just on himself and his good fortune. But I am ironing the shirt as if I was drawing a protective aura, as if it would allow my presence to accompany him without him knowing, inspiring him to say the right things and make the right gestures, which when I think about it, I didn't know what they are. I am getting rid of the creases, as if I was ironing out the tempestuous waves of life, as if I was smoothing out the paths of the world. He won't be aware of any of this, just as we are never aware of the things we find ready-made, finished, in order, awaiting us, as if it was natural and required no effort. But it is what I can do, and it is what pleases me, dreaming while I iron. So humdrum, so boring, but sometimes, like now, with a touch of love, anxiety and tenderness, so intense that it draws something out. Thank you very much for listening.
Qué bonito, Natalia. Estoy segura que haremos mejor nuestras tareas cotidianas.
Let us make our daily
Muchas
exercises.
gracias
Thank you very
por
much
mostrarnos con tu
to
sonora
show us
exposición
your
esas
your
parcelas de
talk,
belleza cotidiana que
this
provienen de tu
the
experiencia
day-to-day
vital,
your vital experience, and also
las profundas reflexiones
your
que nos
deep
has hecho
reflections
en torno
you
a la
have
belleza.
made on this.
Gracias por tu
Thank you
aportación
for your
y
contributions,
al fin
experiential
aportación
contributions,
teórica,
not
llena de
theoretical,
sentido de trascendencia.
full of meaning
Sin
and
la cual
transcendence,
no
without
llegamos a
which
descubrir
we cannot
esa
discover
belleza
this
discreta
beauty,
y
discrete
cotidiana,
beauty, and
imprescindible para vivir
to,
y también
to
para
live
compartir
and
la
to
vida.
share with others our
Has
life.
ayudado a
It has
redimensionar
helped us
lo
to
cotidiano,
redimension our
a pensar más
everyday
veces
life and
en
to
el efecto que tiene
think
sobre nuestra vida.
the effect that it has on our life. Thank you very much.
Ahora tenemos unos minutos.
And
Si
we
quieres
have some
hacerle algún
minutes if you have to
comentario
make
o alguna pregunta.
or if you have to ask something to Natalia. First of all, I thank you for this sharing. The great message is that is regarded with the beauty of every day. Each one of us is a beauty. A scene, an element. You have given us elements to enjoy. The didactic part, he is not understanding. What you said about values, dealing with this, with the didactic in your teaching, it may lose. My aunt's question, is there any contradiction? With the teaching, whether it may. Can we teach in a didactic way or teaching way, and whether it is a risk that it may lose its meaning? My question is, there will be a contradiction or no if we teach in a didactic way of this beautiful or daily beauty in daily life, or we have to, I don't know, he's repeating the same thing. Is there any contradiction? Anything else? I don't think so. There is a contradiction. It is, I spoke only a practical things. We can reach where we can reach. The path or the road where it leads us. What we can introduce is a love through reading. As the Harry Potter, they love, so we can also teach the young people or the children. We can teach the children to read and to practice. What helped me is the reading. If we leave them only to be spontaneous, I would not leave to be spontaneous. The reason is that we are living in a world, or living in a time where the appearances give a place. The teaching or the didactica is to help to bring to the light what is there. What we can help to reveal what is there, and the daily exercises, how to do these exercises little by little. And it is very enjoyable. Let us go to decorate the table, but we have nothing. And if we have nothing, we go. But we have to go and look for. When we see a glass which is when we see a cloth, if we put in a different way, it has beauty. That is the exercise of beauty. It's a physical exercises to show what is there, what we can do. So the didactica helps here or goes from here. There is I am accentuated. How to do this, they ask her. So she just looks at them and smiles. Through my look, through the experience, the people came to know, because we have made to come to light this experience. The didactic helps, or the teaching helps to read the reality. I feel it is there. Sometimes we just live. To wash our look, we ourselves have to wonder, to marvel at it. The quarantine, COVID helped us. COVID helped us to do things in a different way. the situations, the gestures, the sickness, the suffering, to incorporate doing it, to make, to do it beautiful, to attend the old people. There is love towards them, affection. When we give medicine to a sick person, and when we do it with affection, and that is the beauty, and it will transform. Thank you very much, Natalia. I would like to say, really, it was very alive, and it reached to the life. And you showed your experience, and it is your life. Just now, just from Rome, they send a message. Everything is wonderful. The talk of Natalia was very good, and the small things became reached to the heart. Say thank you. Oh God, what a beautiful exposition. We remained in the hall, surprised, wondered. It is, all the commentaries are worthwhile. Only to be silent, contemplate, and to experience this affection of beauty. So just to the nature has helped me. I don't get flash because the nature has helped me. I thank you very much, and it deals with this. Let us be very conscious of and this is justice, the beauty of little things. When we pass through difficulties, we have to accompany our work, our mission, and in these situations of difficulties, let us be clear, the great key is this beauty. We need to contribute to beauty, and this is the fundamental, the little beauty, or the little beauty. The other things, it will push us, but beauty in everyday life is very important. What happened in what happened in Rome, it is very good. Not only the banquets, but everyday food also. Thank you very much, Natalia. I would like to ask in the linea of the first question. It is evident that in the education, we tell the teachers and also the children, we transmit it in not only at the intellectual level, but also practical level. Can you add some elements that would help us to, especially to help the young people? If you can tell us something so that we can help them. The children of 13, 14, 15, the teen generation. apart from the culture that they have in the house, so that we can we do it, or can you help us? I think so you have answered, but again I will take advantage of it. Like all things, these things are not taught through words. These things are taught through doing and living it. We need to cultivate to say in the luxurious places, I am not comfortable, but I need the things should be harmonious, or the places should be harmonious. I don't know how many teachers are here. You know the environment around you, but it is is ugly. The environment that we have around is ugly, cold, and we have to generate spaces. We are going through our ways, but also through their world, to help them to be conscious. There was an adolescent there was a girl, 16 years old, in my office. At some time I asked her, what music are you listening? Let us do the reading now. Now tell me, this repetition or this rhythm, where does it take? It is not to question directly, but where does it? Let her listen from you. You ask them, where does it take? What does it do for you? What do you get from it? To accompany them through these questions, through this exercise, to help them to be conscious. Not to say this is good, it is bad. How does it affect you? How does it help you? When I look at the television, when you see the selfie, when you do the selfie, when you see the photo, all are smiling, everything. These are these faces just to help them to be conscious of this. From the contemplative line, we have to ask them, learn to contemplate and to observe in a reflective way. Let us observe in a reflective way, but don't teach them through the reading. Not to preach, not to tell them this is good, that is bad. How do you feel through this? At this moment it may not, but later on, after that, these following them first time, second time, what does it make? The didactic or teaching them in a different way, but we need to practice first. If we don't practice ourselves, we will not teach them. The young people don't attend the theory. What moves them is the authenticity.
Estamos agotando ya el tiempo. Entonces, muchas gracias de nuevo, Natalia, a todos vosotros. Y
Natalia,
vamos a continuar con lo cotidiano.
Let us continue with the and we will have rest. At 5 o'clock in the evening, we will meet you in the hall. Everyone is clapping.